Tech. Prepara tu bebida favorita y disfruta de este viaje donde vamos más allá del código y los datos.
All right, so I'd say the two guests we have, there's a reason why we picked them to be in our last episode. So it's not because he's the CEO and the boss. It's not because of that. Not just that. So Mike has 35 years of experience and background in healthcare, life sciences, technology and data, management. So he's been through many different situations in BL. He's an expert in everything that has to do with compliance with cloud. So they can actually give us a real perspective on what's really happening in the industry. There's a lot of it. We're going to answer all those questions. We're going to get very deep into AI, real usage, how we navigate this regulated market that we work with, and then we'll be able to unpack topics that we hear very often.
For all the audience, Miguel Santos does also Latin American roots. So I would ask Miguel to give us a localized example of what proprietary data means for someone in Colombia.
So I'll like say, we'll discuss something that everybody knows because everyone has to do it. Everyone has to pay taxes. You have tax laws, there's tax exemptions, there's all these other forms. So actually ingesting all of that tax form data and keeping current and making something that's an easy access tool for someone is a way to say like, oh, like we're pulling in all of this government data, but we're also finding these external programs or these offerings from private companies or private entities to enrich our data. So we're bringing these disparate data sets together to create something new.
Also, I think a real world example here in Colombia is like Atacreto, that is people. There's a company that gathers financial data and then give you like credit scores, so you can actually go to a place and say, hey, I want to buy this. I don't have money right now, but I can use my credit score to buy something. And you don't need a credit card, but you just need to be in that database.
Yeah, that's another example of like they're the system of record, right? So that's a trusted score. Everybody accepts it and they make decisions based on it. So it's not that what they're doing is that hard. It's that they've built all these sort of trust connections, so they'll stick around.
Okay, so I want to change a little bit of focus here because we want to talk about protecting or being compliant with the data, which is a shot that I don't think other companies pay attention to, but because we work in the healthcare industry, we have been working with very very sensitive data, right? So we need to protect, and not just protect, but also we are being very highly regulated, right? So we need to like how is it with AI that are we going to be able to handle that regulation? It is very complex because AI is everything, or unless you make a regulation for it. So how it's being handled right now?
So if you look at AI and healthcare data, when I look at a current contract of someone selling me healthcare data, they carve out AI use rights and basically say, you're not feeding this to a model. If you want to feed it to a model, there's a different guy who's going to want a piece of your business to do it, because they view that as like, that's where this is going to, make them potentially this enormous amount of money. And actually what I'm more afraid of is that they don't understand how to make money with it. So they're going to make somebody else, gets there first. So they don't want to say, oh, I paid $2 million selling the data and someone built, the healthcare version of Anthropic with it. So our contracts for proprietary healthcare data are carving that out and protecting it. History, however, is for sale. And you've seen a lot of things happening on the imaging side where basically right now you have a workflow that started with, hey, I go to the hospital, I I get a scan done, someone at the hospital in the radiology department looks at it and has an opinion. And that shifted probably about 15 years ago in the US to they do a scan and then a doctor in India looks at it and tells you what he thinks he sees. And then that's turning into Claude looks at it and says, this is what it is. So you're seeing this workflow that used to be, I need a guy on site because I didn't have a way to send the scan to, okay, I have a way to send the scan. I'm going to send it to a cheaper place and now I'm going to give it to an AI and be done. And the reason they're able to do that is history gives you the ultimate training set. And, they know with every scan they got done in the last 15 years, they got it and they know what happened to that person. And you can go train the AI on it. Probably once you've done it, you're good. So that history turns out to be valuable, but an interesting problem for the guy selling that data, it's valuable once. Doesn't have a second use.
So actually on that, we're used, and actually for me, working at Source for around 7 years, you get used to talk about healthcare, life sciences, sensible private data. But for our Colombian audience, and since you're an expert, and you've been working with healthcare, life sciences in the U.S. ecosystem for many years, but I also know you've been in Colombia for more than 10 years, and you're a great ambassador. So could you explain or do a comparison between the U.S. healthcare system versus Colombian healthcare system?
So I'll talk about a data compliance thing first, and then try to explain how ridiculous the U.S. healthcare system is. So, U.S. healthcare has a rule called HIPAA, which is it was supposed to be about this problem you had, like when you try to switch doctors, they wouldn't give you your records, and it was basically a way for a patient to say, "Give me all my records." What it turned into was a way for these guys to be even worse about sharing this stuff. And one of the things it codified is if your health information gets out in the open, the fines are unbelievable. And the fines are so high and it's per record that gets exposed that basically hospitals look at like a HIPAA violation as like that could just close the doors. Right. So they get very careful about all that, who they'll share data with, and it's created this whole industry of de-identification. I'll contrast that with I was briefly talking to a minister of health here in Colombia 8 years ago, and I think gave me the entire department's healthcare records on a thumb drive. So slightly different focus on patient privacy. I gave it back.
You didn't.
I didn't look up anybody I knew. I looked at it like someone used to deal with HIPAA, and I'm like, why did you give me this toxic thing? But yeah, it's different regulatory world. So, okay, now to explain U.S. healthcare, like we wind up having insurance usually paid for by the employer, and we created a bunch of ridiculous tax reasons why that's a good thing. And, it's turned it into this world where your insurance becomes your gatekeeper to everything that you're trying to do, and what their rules to try to keep the rates under control, sort of get in your way every place. And then we also have this thing called the AMA, which is an association of all of the medical doctors, and they create reasons to have doctor's appointments that you don't want to have. So, if I get sick here in Colombia, the flu, I go down to the pharmacy, or rather, I rack my drugs to my apartment, and I'm good. I can't do that in the States. Like, they want to schedule an appointment several days, hang out in the waiting room, take time off so that they can write the paper that I take to the pharmacy, you get it filled, have the insurance company go, I don't want to pay for this. and like, pharmaceuticals are a giant business in the U.S., and like the way we access it is beyond ridiculous. And it's resisted almost every bit of technology. And I have my own conspiracy theories that it's just doctors trying to score an extra appointment. But it's truly it's truly broken and have easier access to that stuff here. And actually, this works better here than it does in the
Is
States.
it better or worse?
I don't know. I have an easier time accessing healthcare here. Now we might have something in in New York or Philadelphia that's a reverse proton influx creator that does some imaging that nobody understands. That there's two of them in the world and they're there, but for normal healthcare stuff, it's easier here.
I agree. But okay, so now that you explained to us how all that complexity of the healthcare these days, and because we in the company work with healthcare data from the United States, I would want to ask, and again, maybe a question, how difficult is it to comply or to implement uh, infrastructure or a system that has to comply with all of those regulations and all those uh, complex rules that you need to follow in order to be able to work properly with the data?
So it's actually not hard, but it's very easy to make a mistake and then let data out. You really need to focus on, well, what are the laws saying? And you build your safeguards there. And then as soon as you finish your safeguards there, you have to then build monitors in case someone does something they're not supposed to do. Platform engineers and security engineers and compliance analysts are always looking at the logs, looking for, are we compliant to things, almost to shield the engineer from doing so, such that the engineer, if they write something that tries to send sensitive data outside of the network, there's alerts and there's blocks that stop it, and immediately the compliance team knows, hey, our application just tried to do this. And so it really is around your system design and your security design that secures it. Having worked, both in education tech, where you have to protect students and children's names and their grades and their birth dates and all of that, as well as working in the healthcare industry, it really comes down to only to limit the access, not only of the developer, but also of the access of the API that's being written. It's like it shouldn't be able to read the whole database. You can even go down to row specificity if you want to go all the way to the furthest table limitations, what it can read, what it can delete, what it can edit, and then network controls that limit access, geo-blocking. So countries that are known to steal data from, especially U.S. healthcare data, because it has all of your identifications to steal your identity, steal your money. So it really comes out to designing the system and then building monitors on top of that system to make sure if something is attempting to do something wrong, you catch it, such that you don't actually catch it by the data having been stolen from you already.
So Miguel, on that, and then you describe more or less how the developer and human beings work around this very protected data. But now, with the variable and then with the unpredictable nature of LLMs, how do you deal with that on a daily basis? What challenges have you had in recently using AI?
The biggest challenge is AIs are very smart, and so
Really?
that they can catch on to things and they can find patterns, and they're like, oh, I need this one extra piece of data to do what I'm doing, but I can't get there. But then they're smart, but in a dumb way, where they'll be like, oh, but I found this key store that has passwords that'll actually give me the access I need. So I'm now going to just grab that password and go do something that I'm not supposed to do, because I was supposed to only use this one access token. And it's like that's really the challenge, is putting the safeguards on what you actually make available to the AI agent that you're using to develop.
Exactly. And then that brings me to you. I recently had this with the Fable 5 thing that now is forbidden, and everybody's still talking about,
Unavailable.
it's not available, but for the, I don't know, 24 hours we got access to. So I tested it, and then I was like, it was a POC. All right. So it wasn't a real project. It was a POC. And then
It's fine.
yeah, your data is fine. Ours as well. So so what I let it pretty much I asked it, hey, I wanted to find all the security like issues because that's what it was created for initially, right? Like Mythos 505. And then what it did is, all right, so I need to pretty much scan everything. And I pretty much moved all my personal keys, but it found a way to connect to the container running in AWS. And then the container had access to the database. And I didn't know it. Like, I did know it, but I didn't know that that model was able to connect to the container and be able to create a database on my behalf. So it did a great job. But think about if something goes wrong, it delays the database or move it in a place that we shouldn't. Because actually, there's all these rules that you just described, or they're so I'd say strict that you can go to jail if you download the wrong data set in your local machine.
Well, and the difference is, like, we used to build systems that were trying to keep you from accidentally doing something wrong, right? So that there were guardrails on humans to, like, not do anything stupid. Yeah. So if someone's going to go get some PII and try to pull it out of the company, like, they got to go do a bunch of work for that. Like it's and most of the, like, the no one's accidentally going to go find your Docker image and then scrounge around for keys in order to get into something they weren't allowed to get into in order to grab a piece of data. Like, a human that's not an adversary is not going to do that, but Claude will, like, all the time. Like, I was doing work with Claude, and I gave it this service account. I could only read things because I didn't want it to get excited, delete the entire cloud that I was working on. And, like, one of the machines I have it on, like, I also use it to log into my Gmail to go pull attachments down. And, like, it couldn't do something. And went, oh wait, but I found your credentials over here. And I'm like, kicking the hammer out. It's like, stop it, stop it, stop it.
Turn it off. So if that happened to you, how difficult or easy, or what can we do to protect, or what should the companies
Well,
do, or what should we do to avoid that
So
accident?
people have been dealing with me over the last 6 weeks. I've realized that I've freaked out about security, and it's because of some of those experiences. And what used to require a determined adversary to get into your systems now just needs a slightly interested guy with a lot of tokens. And the kind of things to do to sort of say, okay, we feel secure because we've taken these actions. And a Russian hacker collective might be able to get through, but what are you going to do? Yeah, now it's like, a bored teenager with a platinum card can probably get through. So, I've been, in my own cloud, I've been like saying, okay, I need to reduce the surface that the world can see to as small as possible. And then I need to put a bunch of things in the middle of there. And then I need to have a bunch of redundant things logging and scanning this so I know when something gets on. And I'm driving so many people crazy with this. But I had the same experience to do with the short while we had stable. By the way, it kicked me out 5 times in 24 hours with appropriate questions. Where I was too close to security things, and it decided I was being nefarious. But I was really just trying to use it to protect my own stuff. And I realized, like, the cost of penetrating a system just went down, and the number of people with the ability to do it just went up. And we need to protect against a different threat than we did before. So unfortunately, AI just made system penetration cheap.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things from, like, the examples you were giving. As a human, like, yeah, I have my one pass or my last pass, or like my personal token store. I'm only using one set of credentials at a time as a human to go do one task. But if you give AI control of your browser, a plugin for your browser that gives access to the entire vault, it can go string all of those together and start doing things that you might not have thought would ever do. But you asked a question that, like, oh, I ran into a wall. If I run into a wall, should I be doing this? That's the question I would ask myself. But the AI is like, no, my job is the question. So I'm going to find a way to get in to where I need to get the question in. And so it really is going to be more reliant on humans putting safeguards around themselves. These password vaults that we have make our lives a lot easier, but it also makes it much easier for an AI that gets access to it to do all kinds of things you never would have thought to do or wanted it to do. So I actually have files for passwords to keep my system separate. So if I know that, like, hey, like this is stuff that I'm doing for Source for me and talking to our customers and talking about contracts, those are stored over here. And it's like, oh, and this one customer, I only have the access keys that I have, which do not have admin access and should not have admin access. And so like that way, like I can do a lot of reading of that. And then I have this other customer over here and I have this other customer over here. And I've put safe blocks on it so I can use my AI tool, ask it a question about one thing. And if the question is like, hey, what about all of my customers? It doesn't go out and read all my passwords and start scanning customer data to answer a question about how do I write this contract better,
Oh, I think this is what we came for. It's pretty much real world examples. Like we're actually facing, as Cami said, if that happens to us, that we are used to, HIPAA, high trust, all these different regulations that, everybody needs to pay attention to that.
It's company ending, right? You got to get a breach, close up.
Yep. So I want to take a quick pause here because there is something happening in August that SourceMain has been doing for. This is the actually second time we're doing this. It's called the Tech Sphere, right? Is the third time? Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, this time it's not gonna be that different, but it's gonna be nationwide competence where builders, especially builders, will get together and then we'll do something amazing. And there's gonna be a lot of prizes, but the most important thing is the learning we'll get from there. So the past Tech Sphere challenge went great. I still feel proud about them because they solved a very complicated problem. And then actually, Comms team told me this week that they also won another prize recently, like same team that won the Sphere event in 2025. So this time we're getting together. And one of the things I want to tell you is people ask me about how can I learn AI? And then you learn by building. That's something I also got from AI thinkers. I also encourage you to go there and then learn from the best in the industry.
So here's how it's going to do. How it's going to work. So during the first week of August, the teams will receive the official search prompt. From there, they will have 3 days to build their solution remotely and submit their code repository. Once the judging panel reviews the submissions and releases the results, all participants are invited to Medellin August 22nd to watch the finest presented live demos. So be ready, uh, subscribe, try to locate that date, and get ready to get your code up, to do your challenge, think a lot, and hopefully we'll see you here in the.
Yeah. So and then there's also another surprise about it is the finale also features an exclusive discussion panel ahead of the project presentations, and that's going to be sponsored uh, by Anthropic directly. So that's going to be a very special opportunity for you to expand your network and put your skills in front of the right people. Okay, so sign up to get the full even details and know how to it. Right. So what's the next topic you want to bring us?
So there's another tip of the conversation. Let's talk about career. So now we're started about being systems engineer. I am a system engineer. I started then being a data engineer. Then I moved to being I am a BI developer now, but back in the day I could do all the job of many people data from the very last presentation. But now I think I need to be putting like AI BI engineer, like adding AI to every career role that you have. Like, is that something that is actually valuable? Like, is there something that you see on? I mean, we all know that if not everyone, but most of the people are using AI, right? But is that something that you need to promote yourself as, or what do you think?
So I go back to something Hugo said, like the way to learn AI is to go build things with it. And like Hugo got into this before I did, and inspired me to just throw myself into it to learn how this worked. And yeah, I'm glad I did. My eyes look this way because I spend too much time working in Claude. Um, but it was the only way to understand it was to go try to build a bunch of things for it. And you know, just using AI, I don't think is enough. And I think the word that you're using, becoming an older, is actually the right way to think about it. And the value I think that we bring to projects is one, we have a systematic way of thinking about all the parts of this that really need to be there. And then I remember Hugo telling me a story early on when he first got like 5 cloud agents working on something for him. I was all excited. He said, if this train is going someplace, the agents are all doing things that I know where we're going. And I'm the one leading all of these guys. And I that metaphor is perfect. And we're at a spot where if we understand how the system needs to work, we can make the AI get us there. I think if we're just I built a couple things with Cursor or Claude, and I do other stuff, I think you're missing the point. I think if it's not transforming how you think about the project, you're not there yet. And I've seen this disconnect. I work with a lot of very, very senior developers that are great at what they do, but this is an interesting discontinuity in understanding how to leverage this technology. And I've talked about this for probably like the last year and a half, to the point where all the source people have heard it from me a bunch of times. We didn't stop using COBOL because we ran out of COBOL programmers. Like we just found a better way to do it, and a bunch of those COBOL programmers learned client server, and didn't. I don't know what they did. Nobody asked. This is a faster discontinuity in the market than that. And anyone who says they know what it's like a year from now is lying to you. The only thing I know how to do from a career perspective, which I think is where we started this, learn everything you can. And if what you're doing for your job is not forcing you to learn this stuff, then force yourself off the job to learn it. I had one of my clients ask me, like, hey, can you teach people how to do what you do? And I said, well, understand that I'm doing what I do because first I started with Mike, and then I added 350 hours of working with Claude, and that's how I got here. And if you're asking me to teach someone, I'm like, start there. I mean, don't start with me, but start with that. Start with assuming it's that level of effort to do the stuff and to just keep building things, and not even with stupid things. Like I was telling these guys, like I spent this weekend making my little DGS NVIDIA thing so that I could talk to it on my phone and have it answer me in real time. I have nothing to say to it, but I wanted to see if I could make that work. And it did. And now I just don't have anything to say to it.
Just need to add your voice so you can answer to yourself.
Oh, it was worse. I took an interview that Carol G did and sampled it. And I make it talk to me in her voice.
He's telling you, papacito.
No, I don't have that part working for me.
What do you mean?
Oh, that's this weekend.
Okay, maybe next weekend.
That's a great advice. So Miguel, that Carol G thing, okay.
Spread it worldwide. We can all have Carol G as our AI assistant.
So Miguel, now from hiring perspective, right? So we are now everybody's using AI. That everybody knows that. right? But are we seeing like new roles, like traditional software engineering, data engineer? We got their names. Like we know very well, their names. There is a full stack or front and back end. It isn't a thing now, but full stack data engineering. Are we seeing that actually new roles, even in the platform SRE DevOps side of things?
I wouldn't say that it's a new role. They're still accountable to the same thing, but the difference is what we're looking for is starting to shift. Rather than looking for someone who has 10, 15 years of experience doing something very specific, we're now looking more at their personal skills. How well do they learn? What's the method they learn? Are they curious? Are they good at communication? Because let's be honest, if you're working with AI, you have to be able to communicate well with the AI to tell it what you need it to do and what you need it not to do. We look for people who have good accountability and kind of demonstrate ownership of what they've worked on. Because everyone who's been an engineer, you started a new company, you sit down, there's code that's already been written. That's your project. You own that code. AI is the same. You've asked it to build something for you. It's generating code. You have to be accountable and own that code. And those are like skills that we're more looking for in engineers, especially on the platform side, because the software engineer, yeah, Claude could build front ends, it can do BI work, do all of this, but building a secured platform and making sure that it's doing only what you want it to do and limiting things that you definitely don't want it to do has to come from people who go and learn. They're willing to fail. They're willing to make mistakes and learn from them and grow from them.
So I would say that on that note, continuing with, but maybe shifting a little bit, you're saying that we need to be willing to take accountability and to be responsible for our code, even though that AI generates a lot more code, so it's more work actually for us to understand that. But how do you think now you work with people from Latin America, both of you? What what would you say is a good thing that has made us be positioned as a good reference for working in tech?
So I think when people would ask me, Mike, why are you down in Colombia building software? There's all these guys in California, some of which we know, that do this stuff, and say like talent lives everywhere, and it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. There's smart people that want to be pointed in the right direction to go do things that maybe they didn't think they could do, and build important things. So for me, I don't know if it's specifically like, hey, is Latin America different than another part of the world? I think everywhere in the world there's talented people that want to go apply themselves, and there's a global market that wants to harness that in order to get things done. And that's really what we're all participating in. There's a bunch of multinational companies that need these things. There's little startups that need these things, and they will scour the planet for it. And we're a part of the planet that happens to be very nice to come and visit.
So I think there's a lot that is, it's more prevalent in Latin America and South America than North America, and it's that pride in having built something. There are parts of the U.S. that are still very labor forward. Like most of the jobs are what we call up there the blue collar jobs, where you're out, you're doing the mining, you're building buildings with steel, and they take the pride in like, this is what I built, and having that culture driving how people here are raised and grow up, and they move into software, they carry that with them. Like, this is something I built. I'm building something that I want to be proud of, something that's mine, something that was unique to me. And like, I think that is one of the gems of working with people here in Colombia and Ecuador.
So this was something I remember running into a few years ago. Like, I've never known anyone to get into software that doesn't love software. Like we,
That is required for
I,
you to work in software.
I think it is, and like we all come here with that passion, and it also happens that people pay us to do it. But I think we would do it anyway, because it's such a it becomes such a huge world of things that you can do when you master these tools. And I won't name the guy, but we had someone that worked with us like 8-9 years ago, and at one point I was like, "Are you here because your mom told you to work for a software company? Like, you don't have any feel for this. Like, you don't seem to like it. You know, like, and if like this is a hard business to be in. Like, if you don't love it, like, why are you here? Like, we're not that nice to people."
So with that being said, so there's no, this is not a secret that this had happened in like North America or Europe, and nowadays also in China. We get the results or the benefits of it a little bit delayed. So what would you say to the Latin America talent to get prepped for what is actually happening and what is coming? You said that nobody can like predict the future, but at least how can we get prepped? Or how can the local talent get prepped for what's happening?
So we had a book that came out in the 90s called "Somebody Moved My Cheese," and it was about, the world changed on me, and what used to work last year doesn't work this year. And I'm sure there were 300 more pages of that, but I think that was the gist. This industry is reinventing itself right now, and we don't know what it's going to look like. There's always a need for talented people that want to build things, and I believe that we will find our way to the other side of this transition, and people will still want us around to go build things. They'll have us build different things, and if we don't find those, we'll fall out like so many football programmers. And if we don't keep our skills sharp, that's what'll happen to us. So I think that the next transition, and it's not just here. It's not just, hey, there's stuff delayed in LATAM. Like one, I don't know that delay is as significant as it used to be. I think, the internet homogenized a lot of that access. But like the next transition, it's going to be won by the people that throw themselves at it and then figure out how to add value in this new world. And that equation isn't solved yet. But I know from my own perspective, learning everything I can is the only thing to do.
Yeah, the advice I have is be ready for and embrace the change. Like it's going to change no matter what. So don't resist it. Be open to it. I mean, one of my favorite examples that I've talked to Mike about with like this AI revolution, it's moving even faster than the microprocessor revolution when I was starting to develop. I actually have a video game that I won't name so I don't get sued for it, that I love to play. But they actually base the graphics rendering on the clock speed of the processor because they did not expect processors to get faster that much. It got to the point where if you played it on a newer system, like even 3 years later, it was rendering so fast your human eye could not focus on it. The game became completely unplayable. They released a new version of it to fix and set the clock point, but I mean that's the thing. It's like those developers are like, processors are growing so slowly right now. If we use this, it's a great shortcut. It guarantees very crisp rendering. There's no need to change. And then the world around them changed.
So I have one other insight in this on what's to come. This is my prediction worth probably nothing. I remember reading a book called Pirates of Silicon Valley. And it talked about why Silicon Valley was important. And the author made a point of saying, it's not Software Valley, it's Silicon Valley. And what has driven this business has been Moore's Law, in that every 18 months, we get to go twice as fast for half the money. And like right now, we all look at AI and go, all right, if I'm going to do this model building, I might accidentally blow 30 grand on cloud costs because I make a mistake. And you're watching the guy that runs NVIDIA come and say, hey, I got this thing that I want to sell you to put on the side of your laptop. And know that in 2 years, she's going to make that thing this big and it's going to be in your laptop. And you're already starting to see like Microsoft reference laptops that essentially have 128 gig of RAM and a AI processor in it. So these things that we send out to Anthropic, we might still use Anthropic because that frontier model is going to keep moving, but a bunch of that stuff's going to get local, and there's going to be another set of applications that we haven't imagined yet that are going to be about something that's hyper local to you. And so the thing to take away is like software's changing fast. That's never what drove this. It was always Moore's law.
Be malleable, basically. Okay, but we do have some questions from the audience or the type form. So we have one that is very interesting. We're very used to having Claude and I'm paying for Claude, but what is better for software companies? Use on-demand models like Claude, GPT, Gemini, or open source one like DeepSeek, EML, etc. for development?
Depends on what you're doing. When I was trying to learn all this stuff, I used it, right? So I wound up using a lot of Claude to write code for me, but when I wanted an LM to do decision making for me, I didn't want to send everything up to Anthropic. And part of that was I wanted to understand what the open source models could do. As I'm trying to get an understanding of like, okay, that open source model that barely runs on my DGX today, in 2 years is going to just be a better version is going to be embedded in my laptop, is what I think, and become a common part of everything that I'm doing. So, the way I've looked at this is I need an LLM to make a decision about my data. I try to keep it local because I don't need a frontier model for that. But I do need something that understands English, it can make some basic decisions. And I also think that's going to become a more fundamental building block of software, that we're going to send it to these decision-making things. And then that's actually where you need to learn a new way to build software, where you have to write algorithms where the LLM is not allowed to hallucinate, where you don't let it do things where it can make up data, but you're giving data and having it make a decision as opposed to making up data. And a lot of people get that part wrong, and that's a huge thing we all need to learn.
Awesome. And then there is another question from the audience that is, what do you think will be the most important skill for future data professional, data engineering, AI, or cloud security, and why?
The most important skill.
Yes.
Or one of the most important ones.
Yeah. I mean, for data, like it's really going to be domain expertise. Like the AI model will help you write and optimize your queries, even define schemas for you. But actually knowing what the data means, how you're receiving the data, what you need to do to align the data so it actually adds value to your application or to your customers. Having that domain level expertise is what's going to make you valuable as this AI engine continues to go.
Typing speed. Always typing speed.
Okay. Typing speed. Maybe we'll have robots for that. We don't know. We will have text to speech. So, okay, there's another one. We have seen many surreal and crazy situations in Latin America day by day. Do you think AI will ever be able to surpass the Latin American reality one day?
Everything's weird where I'm from too.
I mean, just if you've never done, just Google Florida man ... I mean, come on, like there's crazy things everywhere. Is it going to exceed the human culture? No, it's going to be growing and learning from it. So it's going to evolve with us in that regard. At least that's my perspective.
All right. We have a very active audience today. This is great.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for the questions.
So yeah, thank you for the questions. So next question. Given the SaaS apocalypse you guys are talking about, isn't this a bad time to start a new digital companies? What should be the approach for the new startups?
And why you do this?
because I have 13 tax IDs. It's never a bad time to start a company. Look, starting a company is about seeing an opportunity you don't think the rest of the market is seeing, or seeing something you go, you know what, I can do that and I will enjoy doing that. No one's going to hire me to do it. I better go figure out how to make money doing it. There isn't a good or a bad time. There's just, it's just finding that.
Yeah, something that drives me crazy. There's this, like this new very trendy thing of having your second brain. So now, there's this application that you run locally. So it started as an open source thing that you can, run locally. It's called Obsidian, and then you can put your notes, your markdown, your pretty much all your work or personal life, and it creates this graph, diagrams, and it's very cool. And then it started as free, and then people started like using it, and it became a hot topic. And now they're like, all right, you can do it locally, but if you want to synchronize to your cell phone, they paid us $10. So that's an opportunity that I never thought, you never thought you were going to pay for something like this. So I think that those are the kinds of opportunities you're talking about.
So that's someone, that's a typical open source play, right? Here's a thing, go use it. I think open source means free. That's not what it means. And then what is a big enough market, there's a way to monetize it. And the old open source model used to be, well, if you're a corporation and you want support, you can buy support from us, and that's how we'll go make money at this. Now the model is, oh, you want to do this other thing with it, that's where you hit the license. I don't know that that's gonna work for Obsidian. I think the people that are attracted to Obsidian will rewrite it because the $10 will annoy them.
All right, so we're keen to learn about owning the code, right? So the question is, can I interpret owning the code as doing an extremely conscious development process?
I mean, yes, in short, that is what you're doing. But I mean, there are many times where the most dreaded statement that I ever hear as someone who worked on the platform side is, "Well, it works on my laptop." That is not ownership. That is the opposite of it. They're like, "Hey, well, it works on my laptop, so it's your problem now." And it's like, no, like this is your code. It's your problem. You should help us do it.
And actually, when talk about like what are the things that are going to keep us all employed, it's understanding what he's saying there. Like, people want us around because we keep the lights on, so that needs to be job one.
Great. And I think, unfortunately, we need to start wrapping up this episode. It's the last episode. I'm a little bit nostalgic, being honest, but we have to wrap it up. And traditionally, we always bring up one episode from another season of the La Hora del Tech. And that's a very special one that we want to talk here. And because that was the one that Mike did with us in a study with all these cameras. And then it felt a little bit weird, but we did it. So the episode was about why sustainable growth starts with people, not costs. So we actually, if you ask me in plain words, is why people matters more than other stuff that we think in companies are important. So as we navigate all this, massive AI shift, you still think that is still important?
I mean, I think it's going to be more important. If you've been around as long as Mike and I have in the industry, there was always that guy who's the best, absolute best developer and horrible, horrible human being. And you tolerated it because they were great. Now there's no reason to accept people who aren't good with other people.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I think about like what we're trying to build, and like we don't always succeed, but what we're trying to build is not just company but community. And if we're not doing that, it's just an assembly line, right? That none of us want to work there.
Yeah, I think also, like, my opinion is soft skills. So many of developers don't have or haven't thought of acquiring soft skills like client facing, communication, and there's a lot of that it's going to be needed because most of the work is going to be done by you and you're going to be facing every part of it if you're going to do it. So that's my take on it. But before we sign off the season, we want to ask you, you talk about having a prediction already, right? But what is a hot take on AI in the future from each of you? Controversial, but not so controversial.
So like you're already seeing governments start to fear what's getting created, right? You saw the U.S. government have a freak out twice in 4 months about Anthropic, and I'm not sure they're wrong. I think they should also be freaked out about Grok, and they should also be freaked out about Chat. But these things are, they're different than the other machines we've built in my lifetime. I mean, I have Claude scolding me on, it says, no, I don't think you should be doing this. I'm like, just freaking do it.
Politely scolding you.
So this is a very different thing. And so, we're close to seeing this get regulated in the U.S., where frontier models might need to go through some regulatory approval, which will be terrible for innovation. It will be awful. And the only thing that might stop is that we'll be afraid the Chinese will beat us. Right? That's the only thing. So we're gonna see some weird interference in that. We'll probably start to see more laws and regulation about what you're allowed to do with this and what you're not, and we'll see more and more people breaking those laws. We're in for a ride.
My hot take is the controversial one. Like, everyone's afraid that AI is going to replace everybody in the workplace. And you know what? It might. And then we're going to realize that AI is only as good as the people who are using it.
Well,
and then we're going to regress and we're going to learn from our mistake. That's my prediction.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, actually, like this week, one of the best developers I know sent me this meme that says, I was concerned about being replaced at work by AI. Now I'm concerned about AI being taken from me at work.
All right. So, that's it, guys. Unfortunately, that's it. Do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up the season, Nuko?
Oh, as I said, I feel a bit nostalgic. This not be like the last time we see this year. I'm looking at the comms team now, and like, no, it's not gonna be the last time. Um, but stay, tuned. We are preparing our next season. We are trying to make this more dynamic. So we went from just having static 7 episodes per season. Now it's becoming something. We are actually building community. We have great partnership with AI thinkers, and we are doing the tech sphere. So Source Meridian loves hiring local talent. So we are doing this because we think, as Mike said and Miguel said, people are going to be even more important, and soft skills are going to be more important than ever. And then that's what we do here. We try to bring you very complicated technical topics to this, very easy to understand conversation. So, and then I think it is important to say that we got this great collaborations, and then without them, this couldn't be possible. And it's Confama. This is actually a great place. This is a great location. I love how beautiful it is. I'm not good at taking photographies, but I was just taking on pics before the episode started because this location is just amazing. We have Institución Universitaria Pascual Bravo, which we already made some events, and we're gonna keep doing it. Google developer groups that are also great. And as I said, AI Thinkers and the Databricks crew Latam US. So all these technologies and community you hear from, those are the kind of people we also hired at SourceMedian. So feel free to go to sourcemedian.com. We have vacancies. We have a lot of open positions there. And then what Mike said and Miguel said about, what are the most important skills today? That's what we are evaluating with on our hiring and onboarding process. So keep that in mind. And I think, that's right.
Just thank you guys so much for being the guest on our season finale of Hora del Tech. We really appreciate you being here, having the time to give us all that knowledge that you have. It's been great. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Also, thank you to our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just remember to stay tuned to our social, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. All the episodes are there. So if you want to go watch them, please do comment on there. We're trying to be very responsive on those comments. So please, you go ahead and write everything that you want to see or next season or what you like this season and how you feel just in your daily life. And yeah, just that's it. Thank you so much for everyone. A wrap for season.
Yep. Keep building, keep questioning the hype. We'll see you in the next season.
Thank you so much. Bye.